What's up, Giants fans? It's week 8, baby. The season's rolling along, and the wins are rolling in for the New York football Giants. They head up to the Emerald City to take on the red-hot Seattle Seahawks with Geno Smith on the ones and twos. So today on the Blue Rush Preview, we've got former Super Bowl champion Dave Tollefson talking about the Giants defense. We're going to get to know our enemy with Mookie Alexander of FieldGulls.com. You see what he did there. And before all of that, let me bring in the rest of the crew. We're running cover 2 today. It's just 2 of us. It's me and my old teammate, Lawrence Tynes. You know he's got 2 rings on him. Tynes, it's just me and you, man. Just me and you today.
Hey,
You're
I like
Saquon,
that.
I'm
Cover
Daniel
2.
Jones.
I was a really good cover 2 safety in high school.
Were you really?
I was not the fastest. I had decent speed in high school, but cover 2, I was a pick machine. Dante Culpepper, I got him.
Ooh.
And then I got Doug Johnson in high school.
Oh.
These are NFL. Yeah. But then I knew my place. I got to the field goal kicking real quick when I got to college. I said, I do not want to hit these damn running backs. Man, what an exciting time to be a Giants fan. 6-1, Brandon. Who would have thought that? And then, the other surprise team is the Seahawks team. A lot of people picked this team to not be very good. I thought a lot of people picked them dead last in the NFL and the power rankings and all this other stuff. But we'll get into it. Credit to Geno Smith and Pete Carroll. What a job they have done.
Crazy stat about this game. This is the only game in the NFL this week that have 2 teams with a winning record. If you would have told me, like if I was a betting man and someone would have told me, hey, in week 8, circle one of the games on week 8, the one game that would have the 2 teams with winning records, I don't think anyone would have circled that game. But again, like you said, it's a new NFL this year, and this is what I'm liking about it. Teams that we thought coming into the season, the Bucs, the Packers, they've fallen off. Teams that we thought we pretty much wrote off in the beginning of the season, the Seahawks. And for some people, the Giants, they are some of the strongest teams in the NFL. I learned just now that you were a cover 2 safety, but what have you learned about the Giants up to week 8 from week 7 with that win against Jacksonville going into week 8 against the Seahawks?
They're going to be a tough out. There's some concerns, obviously, in certain places on defense and offense where they have challenges, obviously, at the wideout position and then stopping the run. But, I mean, a team that's won 6 out of 7 games in the NFL, Brandon, as you know, is difficult enough. They are doing a lot of things right. Certainly every team has some weaknesses, but just a lot of good. I mean, we could all sit here and nitpick the receivers. They keep showing up and they make enough plays. And then defensively, it's like Paul said, they're the bend but don't break type of defense where they allow, 100 plus, 150 yards a game rushing, which was normally a recipe for disaster in the NFL. But now it doesn't seem they buckle up in the red zone. They make the offenses kick a lot of field goals. So it's working, right? It's working. And obviously they're going to have to continue to get better with the tough road game here in Seattle. And then obviously get into your bye week. And that's critical, right? That's where you fix all your mistakes, all your tendencies, right? All the scouts will look at, are we tipping our plays? Are we doing things that maybe teams are picking up on? So that's a very, very important week for this football team to kind of see. And I think it comes at the right time, right? Big trip to London, then this big trip to Seattle. They played 8 games kind of right in the middle. So I think it's perfect timing for this Giants football team.
I love how you brought up tendency breakers, self-scouting. This is the game before you go
important.
into usually you do that going in, that you take that week of the bye week to sit down and self-scout. But I don't think this organization thought that they would be 6-1 at this time. And you realize how big of a win it would be to go out to the Pacific Northwest and to beat this Seahawks team. Because everyone's talking, oh, who have the Giants played? They're the worst 6-1 team. 6-1 is 6-1. I don't care who you're playing. I don't either. What league you're playing in. And we're talking about the defense. The defense is getting better week by week. Okay, run defense, obviously, 4th worst in the NFL, but you're playing against a team that's the 5th worst. So when we're talking about the run defense and self-scouting and tendency breakers, we'll be able to talk to Dave Tollefson later about how the Giants could get better on maybe defensive line, the 1st and 2nd levels. But when you're talking about the defense, they're only allowing 6 points on average in the second half of these games. They're shutting teams out of the end zone or just shutting teams out completely in the fourth quarter, just finding ways. And that to me is all you can do is kind of like, I watch a lot of Game of Thrones and stuff, and like all you can do is summon the football gods and ask them, how is Wink Martindale and this Giants defense getting it done? I don't think anyone has an answer to that.
No. It's hard because as much film as I watch and as much statistics as I look at, there's really, if you look at their defensive numbers, aside from, they are the number one team in the league in terms of completion percentage against, which I think is a big number and they're the number one pressure outfit in this league. They don't get home a lot, but I think the misconception about Wink Martindale's defense is you're thinking 25 sacks, right? You're thinking 100 sacks. That is not the premise of his defense. It's pressure and it's causing confusion, which results in that number we just talked about. They're the number one defense in the NFL completion percentage against, 56%, something like that. So that's tops in the league. That's what Wink Martindale's defense is. It's confusion, identifying guys who are coming. Sometimes you don't know. Interesting spot because the Arizona Cardinals are the number 2 blitzing team in the NFL. They got to Geno 5 times. Yeah. They lost the game, but I think if the Giants can get, upwards of 3+ sacks this game, they'll be playing really well and have a chance to win.
And like you said, they may not get there on the sack. So I think 3 would be obviously ideal. But you saw what some of that pressure did to Trevor Lawrence last week. You saw him getting chatty feet. You saw him overthrowing some guys who had 1-2 yards of separation on the Giants defender. Mm-hmm. Like everyone, I understand people are like, Kayvon Thibodeau, he needs more sacks. Or when's Aziz coming back? We need more sacks. Sometimes that pressure or drawing a holding penalty or making someone, an offensive tackle, jump off sides because he's anticipating pressure, that is a sack in its own right. And Wink is you're going to have to create that pressure against a Geno Smith, who's been one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL this year. But when we're talking about superior QB play this game, again, if I would have told you that these would be the only 2 teams with winning records playing this week, people would have laughed at me. But when I tell you that the 2 most outstanding and dynamic quarterbacks that are playing, or 2 of the most outstanding and dynamic quarterbacks would be playing in this Week 8 matchup with Daniel Jones and Geno Smith. Daniel Jones coming off of an NFC Player of the Week. This dude just continues to grow. His stock is continuing to grow. And that price towards yesterday's price is not next season's price. I can tell you
that's
that.
True.
But that's true. No, NFC Player of the Week.
He's played well. Yeah. It's listen, I think it's his 3rd Player of the Week award in his career. And rightfully so. Listen, he carried that football team along with Saquon. 200 yards passing, 100+ yards rushing. That's a pretty impressive football game especially for a young player in a prove-it year. He's done everything. He's answered all the questions so far. Hopefully we'll see some more in the passing game as the season progresses. But certainly if you're a Giants fan, you like what you've seen out of Daniel Jones this season. There is no question about it. Ownership has to love it. Management has to love it. His teammates love it. So excited for Daniel to keep progressing, obviously, because as he goes, this team will go.
One of 3 quarterbacks with at least 200 yards passing and 100 yards rushing on the year. He joins the ranks of Lamar Jackson and K1 Kyler Murray. Vanilla Vic, they call him on Twitter, and that has me laughing some of the time.
It's funny, yeah.
But the only thing with Daniel Jones being so mobile, he needs to just go back and listen to the song Tootsie Roll. You know what I'm saying? Tootsie Roll, because here's a part in that. There's a part in that song that says, slide, baby, slide. Just slide, baby. Get down, Daniel Jones, please, because that is not the injury we want, especially when we're talking about 2 teams that have 13 players on IR or PUP. Both these teams are pretty banged up. The Giants get Nick Gates back, which is going to be huge in terms of depth and culture on this team when it comes to that offensive line and getting this guy back. But, this is just this week going up against a 4-3 Seattle team at 6-1, heading into the bye is Mike Kafka, Brian Dable, Wink Martindale. They're all sitting in their little evil lair together with the coaches around them, finding a way. How do we create pressure? How do we create opportunities? How can we create extra possessions for this team? So if you were to go into saying if this is a mid-season audition for someone, are there any players on this team to where you're saying going into week 8, this could be a huge week for you to show that you're a guy or you're just a guy?
I would love to see more Wan'Dale Robinson on the offensive side of things. I mean, he's going to be going up against a young corner by the name of Kobe Bryant, who was obviously named after the late, great Kobe Bryant. His nickname is the Red Mamba. He is their slot corner in Seattle. A really cool nickname for a young player. He actually played with Sauce Gardner at Cincinnati. He was a 4th-round pick this year. He has given up a ton of yards. They put him in the slot. I think Wan'Dale is going to be the X factor in this game. Their outside corners are very good football players. The Woolen kid, who's 6'4", 220 in that mold of Richard Sherman or Brandon Brown, or Seattle likes these big, massive corners. But the matchup that I want to see certainly is Wan'Dale Robinson versus Kobe Bryant, the Red Mamba. I love that nickname. This kid is a competitive player. He's given up a lot of yardage, couple touchdowns. He is a blitzer too. I think they've sent him on a blitz 6 or 7 times. He's got a sack, 2 or 3 caused fumbles. This kid's disruptive for a small corner. I mean, he's not a big player, but I think Wan'Dale, that matchup, I think Wan'Dale could give him a lot of problems. The linebackers, Brandon, are terrible in coverage. They're the worst 2 linebackers in coverage on this football team. Their secondary, I know they give up a ton of pass yards, but it's certainly not because of the wideout. It's the interior, like the middle of the field gets worked a lot between the slot corner and these linebackers, that you're completing almost 90%. I think it's 52 out of 56 passes against their linebackers. That's, not, and I know Bellinger's out, but certainly we can feast a little bit in the middle of the field against this defense.
Yeah, that's why it's going to have to be a huge game for Tanner Hudson and Chris Myrick. Now, I understand Daniel Bellinger was one of the leading receiver on this team, but he would catch that 7-8 yard ball, only get a couple yards a yak. If again, against these linebackers who have shown or are showing that they can't cover.
And Saquon,
anyone.
don't forget the backside of the backfield.
And Breida and Breida as well. I think that's another opportunity that Mike Kafka and Brian Dable, they're sitting there and they're scheming that up, because you don't have what you want on the outsides just yet in terms of wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 on the outsides. But if you can scheme up against these linebackers, get them into some one-on-ones, that's the way that this Giants offense is going to attack this Seahawks defense. All right, let's flip it, because we've talked a little bit about the Giants defense. In fact, everybody on social media has been talking about the Giants defense. We're going to get some help, take a look at the Big Blue Wrecking Crew. We're going to bring in 2-time Super Bowl champ, defensive lineman Dave Tollefson. All right, let's talk about the Giants' culture and their defense from a guy who knows all about the culture and playing within the Giants' defense. Let's bring in Super Bowl champ Dave Tollefson, my man. I was about to say Zach Brown band, but, we loving the look.
Oh, there he goes.
We loving the look.
Looks good, man. Hey, you can't ever leave the locker room, Dave, right? You can't ever leave the locker room. It doesn't matter. It's always you're always going to get. Yeah. So
I was thinking about wearing a turtleneck.
You should have.
I'm snazzy. In the words of Olsey, I've got moxie.
Oh, wow. That's typical Olsey. He was pretty quick-witted. Man. Hey, Dave, thanks for coming on, man. Listen, you're one of 14 of us brothers that won 2 Super Bowls. There was 14 of us that were on both teams. So obviously you know a lot about the culture, what it takes to win. What's the most important part? We obviously exhibited that, and we're fortunate to win 2 of them. What have you seen from afar with this new Giants team? Because sure, there's some new faces, but not a lot, right? It's kind of the same guys that Joe Judge had, minus a few people. But what have you seen?
Yeah, man. I think at first you look at it from a macro look, and it looks different. The attitudes, the effort. I think it's just a different energy. Which is so important. Coach Coughlin, energy, that was kind of always his thing, right? From a micro standpoint, on really in all 3 phases, you're seeing execution, and they're playing complementary football. No one's really shooting the other side of the ball on the foot. if the offense makes a mistake, the defense steps up and vice versa. And T-Mac has the special teams playing on all cylinders. So that was something, as I watch this team, that really reminds me a lot of the teams we played on, that we just were always going to help each other if something's not going right on whatever phase that is, right?
You can see that they believe in each other. It's a we mentality there. It's them against the world. And it's puzzling though, because they're 6-1, but the run defense continues to struggle. So from the D-line standpoint, how are they getting gashed? And secondly, talk about like how in the meeting rooms, if you guys were getting gashed, how would you fix it? What would you be saying to each other? What's the terminology, the language, the lingo?
Well, usually if teams ran the ball against us, we just blame OC for it, which was the running joke.
He's just trying to get upfield.
But OC,
He's just trying to get sacks.
He was a great run defender. He doesn't get enough credit how physical he was. But, Wink Martindale, he was in Oakland in 2007 when I was there, before the Giants picked me up off Oakland's practice squad. And it's a pretty complicated defensive scheme. And I'm not very surprised early in the season they're having some troubles, probably with some fits. They're always kind of moving guys around. It doesn't really worry me too much right now, though. Teams aren't scoring a ton of touchdowns running the ball. And then obviously you have to throw the ball in this league to win. And the Giants are winning on those passing downs. So I think it's something that can get fixed. I would say it's some fit issues with you got a rookie from Oregon, Thibodeau, that this is all new to him. He's coming from the Pac-12 where I don't even know if they run the ball out there. And so you just have some new things going on, but it'll get fixed. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really unbelievable. They're 6-1. That's huge. I mean, they're 4 wins away from really guaranteeing a playoff spot, right?
Yeah. Yeah, with an 18-game schedule now, or 17-game schedule, I mean, you'd have to think 10 wins gets in. The NFC East is obviously the best conference in the league, and that has not always been the case. On Kayvon Thibodeau, what have you seen from him? I mean, there's 2 clips of him last week, Dave, and I'm sure you can appreciate this as a hustle guy. He made a play about 55 yards down the field, backside, chasing down Travis Etienne. And then again, earlier in the game before that, 30, 35 yards, backside, chasing down. This kid plays with a lot of effort. He doesn't have a lot of great numbers yet, right? Sacks, everyone wants to see the sacks. But if you watch his tape, man, I think the kid, should have been the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah, and that's contagious. Lawrence, you guys remember Brandon at practice as a D-line group, we ran to the ball. That was our biggest thing at practice as a group. Justin, myself, Matthias, Jason Pierre-Paul, Michael Strahan really left that legacy with us. And it becomes contagious. You get a D lineman running 50 yards downfield and the linebackers are looking around and the DBs, they're like, man, if this big dude's hauling butt downfield, I better get myself in gear. And again, like, I can't reiterate enough, it's contagious, man. And those numbers for Thibodeau, they'll come. They will. With that type of effort and his eagerness, which is really the exciting thing about him, is he seems so eager and excited to be a part of this. It's how fun was practice for us, Lawrence? It wasn't.
Oh, yeah. Well, practice for me every day was fun, boys. I mean,
but you would hang out and watch us.
Oh yeah, listen, there's no question. I had to hang out with my guys, my D linemen, my DBs for sure. But no, practice has to be fun, and then the game is even more fun, right? But that's what this team has a little. I don't ever want to compare them to our 2007 team, 11. You just can't right now. It's too much. Yep. But 6-1 is a real record, and the NFL is recognizing them. You can see the power rankings. They're top 5, I think, in every power ranking. But I still think there's so much more in this team. I know that sounds crazy. They haven't even gotten the pass game going. But if they do and if they can, they're going to be fun to watch.
Well, it's nice to see nothing's being forced either. I 100% agree with you, Lawrence. There's more on the table. There's meat left on the bone, however you want to say it. But Dabble's not pushing that, right? Let's get there on our own merit. and find this stuff rather than we go next week and throw the ball 40 times because we think we can.
Yeah.
Let's do what we can do. And you're right. It really reminds me of kind of that Coughlin-led win the physical battle. You remember that Jerry Palmieri would always grade that every week. And they're winning. And at the end of the day, 3 points, 7 points, whatever it is, you're stacking wins.
So you guys said things like winning the physical battle. You said energy. You said success. A guy that's having success this year, Dexter Lawrence. Like Dave, people have said that he underproduced and he is having a career year. Is that scheme? Is it off-season work? Like, what's played into him coming in and having such a big year?
Well, I think he's getting comfortable. That anchor, the Barry Cofield of our defense, Linville Joseph, it's a physical, integral piece of the defense, and that can take some time for a young guy like him. You're dealing with all conference college guys every week now, and he just looks like he's getting comfortable. He's taking chances. He knows the scheme. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wink has something to do with this, knowing how talented he is and kind of letting him do his own thing to a certain degree. You got to let playmakers in this league make plays. We always gave OC a hard time. We said it earlier, him getting upfield, doing his own. Well, listen, he was the best athlete potentially on the field some games. So we had to give him some leeway to do his own thing and really, hey, Dave, you just go where OC's not at, whether it was pass rushing or whatever it is. So it's exciting to see him kind of grab the bull by the horns, Dexter, that is, and make plays inside. It's tough when you have a guy like that can do the things he does for an offense. He's right in front of the ball. He's the first guy making contact at the snap, and you immediately have to deal with him. And so that changes things for an offense.
That just got my energy going. I'm ready to go play right now. I love. Hey, thanks for breaking down the defense, Dave. Stay with us because we're going to get into some game predictions next. Hang with us. Appreciate that, Dave. Tynes, I did a autograph signing with him my rookie year one time. Like, people wanted a Brandon London autograph. That was just absolutely out of control. But Dave, thanks for coming in and breaking this down. All right, Tynes, it's time for us to break down some key matchups. If going into this game, if you're saying the Giants have to win, what is your most important key matchup in this game?
Stopping the run. Okay. This is very simple. Certainly on both sides of the ball, right? This game features two really good running attacks. The Giants rushing versus Seattle defense, is it a good matchup? No, it's a great matchup for the Giants. These are the two of the worst rush defenses in the NFL. The Seahawks are giving up about 4.9 yards a carry, 150 a game, second worst team in the league. This is the important part, Brandon. 44 missed tackles by this defense, second worst in the NFL. What is the one thing the Giants do really well? They tackle well. Now, the Giants bend but don't break. They have equally as bad a rush defense, but they do buckle down in the red zone. So the Giants are, I think, third or fourth best in the NFL in terms of missed tackles with only 24. I think tackling in space is the key to this football game because I think both runners are going to get going. This Kenneth Walker guy is a problem. He's only started 2.5 games. He's a rookie, second-round pick out of Michigan State. He's averaging something like 6.1 a carry. He has longs of 70, 4, 69, 30. He's only started 2.5 games. If they do not get penetration early with Dexter and Leonard and some of these D linemen, and you let this guy get to that second level, it's going to be a problem. So certainly I think both rush defenses are going to be tested. I think the game is going to be won or lost right there, whoever runs for the most yards. Seattle gives up a crazy amount of rushing yards in terms of when they lose, right? 235 against New Orleans. Taysom Hill and Kamara went nuts. So we have the guys to do it. And certainly what a team is after 7 weeks is what a team is. I get you can make adjustments and try and fix your run game, but certainly the Giants got to be licking their chops with the way they've run the football this season, especially with how much Daniel Jones, how well he played last week.
And to piggyback off that, especially when it comes to Seattle's offense versus our defense, in the run game, their 13 personnel is their 3 tight ends. They've got a 3-headed monster with Noah Fant, Will Dissly and Kobe Parkinson. And it's not even, they're catching balls. I believe they're like 30% of the targets and then ball and catches that Geno Smith is throwing, but they're blocking out of control. I mean, these dudes Dissly on that big run on the Walker touchdown set the edge off of double team block with Kobe Parkinson. And I understand people are, you're talking about blocking, that's boring. But this is what these two football teams do well. And this is when you're going in against a Giants defense, this is how they're going to attack it. They do a lot of pre-snap motion with the tight ends. That not only helps them recognize what type of coverage that a defense is going to be playing, but it helps them when it comes to setting the front, what they're going to run against, and how they're going to go when it comes to blocking schemes as well. They want to get the ball, they want to get the ball on the outsides and give Walker some space to get loose against one-on-ones or get him some space so he can hit that home run. We haven't seen a home run hit against this Giants defense yet this season. I mean, Christian McCaffrey had a pretty nice run. Zeke had a pretty decent run, but we haven't seen a run on us over 60, 70 yards just yet this season, and you can't have that now. Another matchup is going to be, or a thing to look at, is you can't let Seattle have a fast start. And again, it plays into what they do great. They run the ball really well. They jumped up 17-0 against the Chargers, and then they allowed the run game to really take over. So when we're talking about the Giants defense in the second half, you don't want Seattle, again, to get into that 13 personnel to try and run and bleed clock in the second half, because then you take away what the Giants want to do, and that's run the football. You're forcing them into a throwing situation. So when it comes to that fast start times, again, against the 12s on the road all the way out in Seattle, Giants have to create a fast start.
They do, and I'm glad you brought that up. The Seattle Seahawks outscore their opponents 61-31 in the first quarter. I don't think there's a bigger discrepancy in the NFL. That's 2-1. They do. It's interesting. They just get out to these fast starts. They're a big play offense. They have timely turnovers on defense. Like you said, they went into LA last week and they turned the ball over 3 times against the Chargers. Like the first 3 possessions, turnover. And they jumped out to a 17-0 lead. So hostile environment, very, very ball conscious. You're going to have to hold on to the football. The Giants are, which, to this point, they've been very good at not turning the ball over. So they're going to be challenged, no question about it, going into a tough environment in Seattle.
So to take that and then think about that, to take that away from them, not allowing Seahawks to have a fast start. A lot of that comes on, again, we kind of touched on Geno, but we haven't gotten into depth yet on Geno. And we were talking off camera before we started shooting, and we were saying how he and Russell Wilson look like they've just flipped in terms of who they are. It's like the Monstars took Russell Wilson's power and gave it to Geno Smith. He is playing lights out, but in the production meeting a couple days ago, we talked, Geno has his flaws. Talk about some of those flaws.
He does. Certainly he's the number 3 ranked passer in the NFL behind Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. You cannot take away anything he's done this year. I think the one thing, he obviously, and when he can run the football at times, he leads the league in scramble yards when he has to scramble, but he's not looking to run, right? You have to tip your cap to what Geno Smith's done. I reached out to Eli because I know Eli played with him, and I said, what does this guy do well? What is he doing well? What are you seeing? And so certainly Eli just mentioned the fact that he's got a really quick release. He's got a great arm, an above average arm, and you see that, right, with his yards per target. He's up somewhere top 2 or 3 in the NFL in terms of yards per attempt. He can get the ball out. He gets the ball out fast, but he's playing within the system. I think Eli said he noticed, look, they're taking shots, and when, back in the day, he used to kind of take the shot and not take the check down. When the shot's not there, he's taking the check down. So he's being really disciplined with the football. He hasn't thrown an interception, I believe, since maybe the Arizona game. So he's I think he's got 3 on the season. So not a lot of picks for the terms of number of times he's thrown the football. Eli didn't really say he had a lot of weaknesses, to be honest. He did not say, he doesn't do this well. He was very complimentary of him. Obviously, they played together, but I mean, look at his numbers. They're really good. This is kind of a reincarnation of Geno Smith. He's been in the league 10 years. He's only 32 years old. He's kind of got that Rich Gannon feel to me. I don't know. That's probably before your time, but Rich Gannon had a similar career.
Yeah.
His first 10 years, I looked it up. His first 10 years, he had like 41 starts, 42 starts. That's exactly where Geno's at. And then, about the same touchdown to interception ratio. And then went on this tear in the last, 8-9 years of his career where he was MVP and went to a Super Bowl, multiple Pro Bowls. That's who Geno Smith is playing like right now.
Yep.
And you have to recognize it. Don't think of him in that Jets uniform. He is in the Seattle Seahawks uniform playing really good football. And, this is not like this caught Seattle off guard too, Brandon, because if you think about it, there's no way in hell they would have went out and got Drew Lock if they thought Geno Smith is this guy, right? Or, they've kind of danced around some other quarterbacks too. They didn't know Geno Smith was this good either. So, but I'm glad to see him playing well.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about not knowing and not knowing if he was going to play that well and over playing expectations, at the top of the second round, the Seahawks had back-to-back picks at 40 and 41 overall in the NFL draft. They passed on Sam Howell, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Matt Corral, and Bailey Zappi. And they drafted a lineman and they drafted Walker. So they obviously Geno showed something. And let's talk about a guy that he
but
is.
But they had Drew Lock by then too. So right.
Yep.
So that's why they probably thought they were set there. They thought Drew Lock was going to be the guy because he got a lot of the reps in the preseason. But certainly Geno Smith has proven to be the better player.
All right, so we broke this game down about how we think things are going to go. So how does Seattle view this matchup? To figure that out, I spoke with Mookie Alexander of FieldGulls.com and this week's Know Your Enemy. The Giants prepare to head up to the Pacific Northwest to take on the red-hot Seattle Seahawks. So, to help us break down this matchup from an Emerald City point of view is the producer for Field Gulls. I like that. Mookie Alexander joins us for another edition of Know Your Enemy. Mookie, I love the hair, my man. You ready to get into this thing?
Yeah, I am. And I tell you what, with football and with sports in general, people think they know everything, but the great thing about sports is nobody knows everything. In fact, more often than not, we know nothing. Nobody would have predicted that this game would be one of the more important ones of the Week 8 slate.
I love the quote. We're going to put that in a fortune cookie. So let's get this thing started right now. What areas do you think Seattle can exploit the Giants and have them sleepless in Seattle?
I would say the run defense. And as great as the Giants story has been, I'm impressed by their pass defense, but the run defense, they've given up 5.7 yards per carry, which is tied with the Chargers for worst in the league. And even if you go by advanced metrics through Football Outsiders, their DVOA is near the bottom of the league. And the Seahawks rushing attack has really been outstanding the past few weeks, including this past Sunday against the Chargers, with rookie sensation Kenneth Walker III picking up 168 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. So even with the loss of Rashad Penny, Walker has stepped in seamlessly and looked like the franchise running back that the Seahawks hoped he would be. So I believe that because, especially with DK Metcalf's injury and his status being uncertain, the Seahawks may be inclined to try and establish a dominant rushing attack against the Giants defense that is vulnerable against the run. So I believe that is going to be the top key for Seattle's game planning this week, especially with the passing attack, as I mentioned, already being a bit shorthanded potentially with Metcalf. The blitzing of Wink Martindale could fluster an inexperienced offensive line. So if they can counter that by running the ball effectively, that would be huge for the Seahawks offense.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker has been lightning in a bottle for this Seahawks offense. And the Giants' rush defense, yeah, they haven't been that great, but Seattle's rush defense ain't been that pretty either. So do you think that the Giants' run game still concerns you, considering both Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley are coming off of 100-plus yard games?
Yeah, it does. Now, the Seahawks run defense has gotten a little better over the past couple of weeks. They held Benjamin in check in the Arizona win, and Austin Eckler was a non-factor for the Chargers, but the Chargers barely have a rushing attack. what makes the Giants different is the fact that they have Saquon Barkley, who's up there with Geno Smith as far as comeback player of the year contenders. And then you have the mobility of Daniel Jones. And I think back to the Saints game for the Seahawks, in which they gave up over 100 yards to both Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara. And that's the first time in Seahawks franchise history that they've ever allowed multiple 100-yard rushers in a game. They allowed over 100 yards against Jamal Williams of Detroit, so he's the backup to DeAndre Swift. They have had trouble stopping the run. So as much as I've been encouraged with the way that they have defended the run better in recent weeks, this is a much, much stiffer test in the form of the Giants, because not only do you have to deal with Barkley being so shifty in the open field, and he's got that incredible speed, but Daniel Jones, like I said, very mobile, and the Seahawks have not had the best of times against mobile quarterbacks. In fact, you look at some of their worst performances against mobile quarterbacks or against the run. They involve the quarterback being a threat. So that can include Taysom Hill, even if he wasn't really the main quarterback, Andy Dalton was. Kyler Murray still rushed for 100. And, the Seahawks passing defense might have shut him down, but we know how dangerous Kyler can be. So Daniel Jones, even if he's down, a couple of receivers, and Daniel Bellinger, got to be wary about his legs and his ability to extend plays and also be a threat on design runs.
Thanks again, Mookie, for joining us. All right, we've got Dave Tollefson back with us. Let's do what I like to call my favorite part of the show, the predictions. Here we go. So this is how we run this, Dave. I'm sure you've done predictions before, but we just got to let you know how we do it Blue Rush style. I'm just giving you over-under. You take the over-under and a quickly why. Tynes, you take it first since, you're the elderly statesman here. Here we go. Geno Smith passing 244.5 or in a half yards. Over-under why? Yeah. Go.
Well, I wrestled with this because he's been playing so well. But again, he's thrown for over 244 yards 3 times this year. The high water mark was like 325 against the Falcons, but not so fast.
Uh-oh.
The Giants defense, like I mentioned earlier in the show, have the lowest completion percentage against. I say Geno Smith is under 244 yards passing in Seattle this weekend.
Dave.
I say over. I think they're going to make Geno try to beat us. Wink's going to have a good game plan. I think they'll stop the run. And I think it's not so much of big plays. I think it's going to be a volume thing. He's going to throw the ball a lot, and he might get to 250, 265, something like that on 40 attempts.
Same. I say the over. I think they're going to stack the run, force them to run the ball, and I don't think Wink Martindale, I think you give praise to a Geno, but I don't think Wink is sitting there like Geno can beat this defense. All right, let's move on. Kenneth Walker III, rushing yards, over under 70 yards. Dave, start us off.
I say under. But you got to stop the run. So I say under, force them to throw the ball, right?
Tynes.
Yeah, I'm going to say over, and here's why. I don't care how many yards they put up against the Giants. That are bend but don't break defense. They haven't, the Seahawks have the 31st ranked offense in the red zone. Let's keep it that way. Make them kick field goals. The Giants have allowed 8 individual players this season to rush for over 70 yards. We've only played 7 games, guys. We haven't stopped anybody except the Green Bay Packers. That's it. It's the only team we've held under 70 yards rushing a player. Twice Baltimore has had 2 guys. Dallas has had 2 guys. So until they show us that they can stop the runners from under 70 yards, I'm going to say Kenneth Walker is over 70 yards. I mean, he's a big play guy. But again, it doesn't scare me at all.
I'm going to go under. This is my bold prediction here. I think, this kid is lightning in a bottle. I think they're going to stack the run, force Geno to beat them. But I think his big play comes off of some sort of screen, some sort of swing pass in that sense. I don't think he's going to break out in that run game, especially with how well the Giants defense, especially the secondary, is doing and coming up and making tackles. All right, we know the Giants struggle against tight ends. Seahawks tight end receiving 60 yards, over under.
I say over. I think they're going to get a couple guys involved in that. You're going to see some chips on our pass rush that'll lead to a couple quick passes. I don't think much over, but I can see Pete Carroll and his team kind of leaning on their tight ends if they're struggling early to run the ball to kind of get Geno going.
Tynes?
Yeah, I'm going to have to say over too, either Fan or Disley. Neither one of them's had over a 50-yard game this season, but somebody has to pick up these DK Metcalf targets, right? DK is not going to play. You've got Lockett, but I think one of these tight ends gets more involved this week. And just for a bonus, I'm going to say it's Disley.
Ooh.
Disley's the guy over 70.
Dang.
I just made up the bonus. It's not even a real thing, Dave.
I feel bad saying that was a great bonus because he's on my fantasy, but I think I might have to sit him since he's playing against the Giants this week. Like, save that 70 for next week. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going over as well because I talked earlier about that 13 personnel. If you want to run the ball out of that, but again, if you're going to stack the box, then they are going to try and exploit the Giants linebackers in the way that they've not been able to cover so well. So I'm going to go over on that one. So let's flip it, though, and let's talk about the Giants and set some over-unders for them. This is what I've been waiting for all year. A Giants pass play over 20 yards. 1.5 is the over-under. Go.
I think over. Man, our offense right now it's probably the last offense you want to bet on because Dabble kind of changes everything as we go. And you see the game develop, and he's going to go to the spots that he sees developing during the game. I say over as a homer. I think we've had some success. Last time when we were playing together, we went down to Seattle and beat the hell out of them. So I'm saying over.
Yeah, I would like to say the over also, but it's not going to come on the outsides. I mean, those two corners that Seattle has, that Woolen guy, the 6'4", 4'2" guy, he's got 4 picks. I like a Wan'Dale Robinson big play, and then I also like maybe a Saquon Barkley big chunk play in the passing game because, like I mentioned, their linebackers suck. They're terrible. They've given up 90% completion percentage. Yeah, this is a real show, Dave. I can say they suck.
Dude, I love
90%, 90% completion percentage against 37 of 42 these linebackers in Seattle. Attack them. That's their weakness.
That's my kicker.
They didn't change in a week.
That's my kicker.
Right.
You got to cry like T.O. when you say that, though. Yeah, I'm going to go I'm going to go over with you as well because, I mean, look at the Jacksonville game, 32-yard touchdown to Slayton, a 19-yard catch by David Sills. You're right. They're right there. And again, if you're going to beat this defense, this Seattle defense, yeah, we're going to run the ball well against them, but I really feel as though the big plays have to come within the passing offense this game. All right, Giants O-line, 1.5 sacks allowed. Tynes, start us off.
Man, this is, like we talk about, if they can keep it under 3 every week, it doesn't scare me, right? You're going to get sacks in this league. They happen. It doesn't kill the game. You just can't have more than 3. I'm going to say yes. The Giants have allowed 19, 20 sacks. The Seahawks have 17. They can get after the passer a little bit without blitzing. So I think the noise kind of comes into play a little bit. Someone gets a good start. Someone gets beat. So I'm going to say over 1.5 sacks.
Dave.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tynes, and I'm okay with it as well. We're seeing Daniel make some really good decisions. Taking a sack and not turning the ball over is a good decision right now with where we're at. We played with the guy that wasn't near as mobile as Daniel, and I think sometimes that mobility plays into getting sacks against you. Protecting a guy that's an athlete as an old lineman is really difficult because he won't always be in the pocket, So I say over, maybe not a ton. Obviously, we don't want to give up 4, 5, 6 sacks, but I could see 2, 3, and it not being a bad play for us.
I'm going to go under on this one. I see them attacking this Seahawks defense with a lot of zone reads. Again, getting Daniel out on the outsides. He's doing a great job running the ball. Again, I want him to slide a little bit better, a little bit more. But again, that quick game as well in the passing game, I don't think they're going to try and put themselves in position to where they're 3rd and 7+. It happens, but I don't think they want to do that on the road, especially with the 12s. Behind that Seattle defense. Last but not least, Giants points, 26.5. Over, under. Dave, go.
I think they can win going under that, especially if we play well against the run, stop Kenneth Walker, maybe get a couple turnovers. Obviously, my hat's off to Geno. He's playing great. But I'm going to say over. I think we're going to get 2 to 3 touchdown passes from DJ, maybe a touchdown run. I think Saquon's going to have a big game, like Lawrence had said in the screen game, maybe a little bit of wildcat. But I could see us in that 28, 35 point range and winning the game out there.
Tynes.
Yeah, this is a tough one because Seattle's defense, obviously, their scoring defense is ranked 29th in the league. They give up, 26, that number that you mentioned. But that's in big part because of their road scoring. They give up 34 points a game on the road, guys. 17 at home, half. I'm going to say the Giants are under 26. They're a much better team, obviously, at home, only giving up 17 points a game. But obviously it doesn't, again, the Giants can still win the game scoring 23, 24, 25 points. So I think the Giants are under the 26 and a half.
Same. I think they scored 24 points on this one, I think Daniel Jones accounts for all 3 of the touchdowns, though. I think he throws for 2 and he runs 1. I'm not taking anything away from Saquon. I think Saquon could catch one of those touchdown passes. But I just see this Giants defense, this team, their mantra is to they're a fourth quarter team. Take this game into the fourth quarter, be within one possession, be within one possession to be able to strike, to either tie it up, to win it. And I don't see them wanting to get into some sort of shootout to where they have to score over 26.5 points. But Dave, this is another part. This is Tynes' favorite part. It's called an extra point. This is where you throw in your final thoughts. We're going to let you go first, and we're going to end it with Tynes. Your final thoughts on this Giants-Seahawks game. Go.
Man, who would have thought, what was it, 10 weeks ago, that this would be a big-time potential home playoff game matchup? Whoever comes out of this game could potentially have a home playoff game. So it's exciting. Listen, I think we're all excited how well the Giants are playing. Again, the Seahawks are surprising. It's just the Giants are playing important football this season. And so I'm looking for them to get a win. Let's get a win here, get to the bye week. I think it's in a couple weeks and feel good about the rest of the season. I'm just excited, man. It's good to see the young guys, the energy. Let's get after Geno. God love him, but him starting over Eli, man, that still sticks in my craw a little bit. So let's get after him.
Yeah, it always circles back. No, listen, this is an important game, and we talk about it every week on the show, that every time they keep winning, every game gets more important. I think the Giants have the ideal offense, if that makes any sense, to go into a very, very tough environment and win. They lead the league. They're top 2 or 3 in the league in terms of number of plays and time of possession per drive. That's going to serve them well. Hold the ball. You cannot let Seattle get out to a fast start. We talked about it. They've outscored their opponents 61-31 in the first quarter. Control the football. Take care of the football. Going to have to get after Geno a little bit. They're going to have to get some sacks this week. I get the pressures work well, but they're going to have some negative plays and put them in bad down and distance situations. And I think Kayvon Thibodeau, right, he's kind of going up to his area where he went to school, and he's going to have some. So I think that sparks him. He's close. He's close every week. I think he gets a couple. Big sexy Dexy's going to, get one from the middle. And then I think the Giants win this game, 24-20, another close game again because it's the Giants. But no question they should leave their 7-1 going into a bye week.
Absolutely. I mean, Kayvon going back up to the Pacific Northwest. I hope he has a shirt on underneath his pregame outfit. And but one thing both of y'all said, in terms of important football, we haven't seen that in quite some time. And it really, just riding the wave. A lot of us are just riding the wave right now, taking it game by game, seeing what Brian Daboll is doing with this Giants culture is exciting for everyone. So I just want to thank everybody out there that's watching and listening to this episode of the Blue Rush Podcast, our New York Giants show. So please subscribe to Blue Rush on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, people. Make sure to follow New York Post Sports and SNY's YouTube channels for all videos from Blue Rush. New videos are going to drop Monday morning following Giants games and Thursdays previewing the week ahead. For Lawrence Tynes, Dave Tollefson, Brandon London, we're going to catch you all on another dope edition of Blue Rush.